How's it going out there, guys? Going to have a pretty good show tonight. We got Kevin coming on with Backwoods Life, and he's a wealth of knowledge, especially for anybody out there having issues with, sandier soil, stuff like that. These guys can grow stuff that it blows my mind. I don't see how they do it. So, how's it going, Danny Robinson? Good to see all you guys on here tonight. I appreciate it. Brandon Roberts, good to see you, bud. Man, guys, that wind here has been horrible today. I mean, it's ridiculous. Good thing about it is it's drying out our plots where we can actually get in and start doing something here shortly. So that's the only good thing about it. Anthony, good to see you on here, bud. Let's not try to discuss any of that text message we were talking about that we were going through last night. All right, guys, we got some of you on here. I'll go ahead and fire this thing up. And again, I want to bring Kevin from Backwoods Life on here. And we're going to be talking about some sandy soil, what they can plant, how they plant it, stuff like that down there in the South. And really, it really blows my mind on what these guys can plant. So let's get Kevin on here. What's going on, buddy?
I don't know, Robbie. You said something about I heard you say wealth of knowledge. I was afraid you were talking about the wrong person because I don't think that's me.
No, I think it is, man.
The only reason I'm a wealth of knowledge is because I have your cell phone. That's questions.
Yeah, well, we do a lot of that, that's for sure. But heck, we're both learning. Both learning,
I
man.
always, I always have a lot of questions. You got a lot of answers.
Yep, I try my best. If I don't know it, I make it up. So you just don't know the difference. But now we got a bunch of guys already popping on here.
Tells me I got an answer for it. Good deal.
Well, the biggest thing I thought we'd talk about, Bud, is for me being in the Midwest down here or up here from you, I'm fortunate. I got coal black soil, good soil. We do have some clay. The only sandy soil I really have is you get down the river bottom, stuff like that. Now, when I went up to Wisconsin, yeah, they got some sandy soil up there and some mixed kind of sand, dirt, stuff like that. But man, you guys down there, you're sugar sand. I mean, it looks like if you took a picture of it without a background, I'd swear you're on the beach.
Oh yeah, it's 100% beach sand.
It is.
Sometimes we can hit some of those plots with a bottom plow and get a little bit of, I call it darker dirt, but it ain't near darker dirt compared to what y'all have up there.
Oh yeah, yeah. I know all the pictures, all the pictures you guys send and everything. It just blows me away.
Especially that top layer. I mean, it is 100% beach sand, and
Right.
actually, to me, it's even finer than beach sand because it's like dusty flour.
No, I can believe it. When I used to go for years on years, we had an annual trip down to Apalachicola National Forest. And we go down there hog hunting and deer hunting. And it puts me in mind of them old four-wheeler trails we would ride on. I mean, it is just fine, powdery. Truthfully, guys, I don't know how you do it. I mean, I know we got good products, but man, you guys put them to the test down there.
Well, the only thing that I would say that we do is we put the seed in the dirt, and
Yep.
the seed seems to do the job because
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
we've limed, but we still even this year need to do a lot more lime application. And you tell me if I'm out in left field on this, but I almost think that even applying the lime that we try to do what it calls for, but I think some of that even leaches through the soil in that sandy soil pretty bad.
I agree 100% with you. I can see how that would be an issue. I really can.
But we can get a hard rain today, and especially if the sun's shining by tomorrow, it's going to be blowing dust everywhere again.
Exactly right. One thing that, I have always been 100% against until you and I started talking over the last couple of years about what we can get to grow down there. And it's something that you guys do. And again, like I say, I'm against it, especially up here, but not down there now. And that's overseeding. I've heard you mention multiple times where you really need to take that rate that we give you and you need to add some to that just because of the germination loss you have because of the poor soil. And you have better success that way, it seems like.
And I really don't think that it is the germination loss that gets us. I think that our soil doesn't grow the plant as quickly as your soil does.
Well, no, well, that'd be
and
true.
so the deer wear it out that much faster.
That's good. Yeah.
If they're, let's say in a square foot, I'm just making numbers up out of nowhere, but if we grow 40 plants in a couple square feet,
right,
you could probably grow 20 plants in that couple of square feet and be successful, whereas our 40 plants might be wiped down to 10 in the first 2 weeks after germination.
Right. And one thing I can see too, I've seen last year from your radishes, you guys grew radishes like no other, but the amount of forage compared to what I can plant here and what you plant on how they grow, my forage, I got so much more forage, but man, they're still growing down there for you. You're still getting a good plot out of it, good nutritional value out of it. So it's, I can see what you mean by that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, even like right now, we've got clover filling in a lot of areas, but our clover plants aren't anywhere near the amount of forage on that plant as what you guys have.
Exactly.
We can walk out there and I think, oh shoot, we got a pretty good little stand of clover coming up here. But if I went and looked at one of yours, I'd want to go cover ours up.
Right. No, I hear that. I understand completely. Well, last year I remember you sending me the pictures. Well, I think I shared them on Facebook here too, but you using the exclusion cages out there. And that was really a tattletale sign on how much them deer actually do eat your plots down out there.
Well, and probably the worst plot we've got is a great example of that. That if we did not use an exclusion cage, you would 100% think that we didn't have a single plant come up in that food plot.
Right.
But in the exclusion cage, it'll be lush and green and everywhere else. And in the first month, the deer will have every plucked out of the ground in the rest of that plot.
Yep.
And we're kind of going back to the drawing board on that plot because we're growing it, but they're eating it faster than it can grow. And then by the time you're really ready to hunt over it, it's back to bare dirt again.
Back to bare dirt again. Yep. I think we need to, and I know I actually looked over the records while I sent you that stuff today by email. I was looking over. I think in a plot like that, we really need to incorporate some more cereal rye, stuff like that that's actually going to continue growing as they eat it down. I think that cereal rye would really help. And then it also help come next year as you guys go ahead and work that soil under what is left standing or stalkwise or anything like that. It's a soil builder and it puts organic matter into the soil. So I think us incorporating some more cereal rye into a plot like that will really help.
I don't disagree with you, Robbie, but we have cereal rye standing in almost every single plot besides that one.
Yeah.
And that one, even the fall, winter, spring,
no
can't
kidding.
handle it.
You got to be kidding me. Wow.
I mean, it's a narrow plot. So it's not enough space to hold a bunch of, plants.
Right.
But it also, I mean, the pH is still poor. So it's not utilizing the fertilizer. But I mean, like I say, before the plant can even put on a few leaves, it's already plucked out of the dirt back there.
Wow. And that's probably an issue you guys have there too with that sandier soil. I've heard you mention plucked out of the soil. Them deer probably pull roots and all out, don't they?
Oh yeah, they walk through, especially first couple weeks after germination. That little tender plant there, they'll walk by and, I mean, the whole thing's toast. Even if they didn't pull the roots, there's not enough there for it to survive.
Right? Exactly right. Wow, that's crazy.
I've heard people talk about trying to use Milorganite and stuff like that. I've heard people talk about building, electric fences around it. But
Yep.
the space we have, it's not really cost effective to try to do electric fence. Plus,
Right.
we'd be making a big corner there that deer couldn't cross in a place we really want deer to get used to crossing.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and then that's also another thing with the Milorganite. That's kind of a
Mhm.
T-shaped, mostly L-shaped food plot, and we don't want to deter deer from being there.
No, you don't. No, you don't. No, I can see. I can see your pain. I can feel your pain on that one. That's a tough one. What kind of pH you think you're running? You down in the fives, or what are you?
I could look, but I'm going to say that one probably less than 5. It's
Less
probably
than
the
five.
worst one we've got.
Yeah. So I think if we can get that soil build up, it's going to do better. They're still going to wear it out. Don't get me wrong, but at least it'll get better, get more nutrients to the plant and stuff like that with all the fertilizer you guys are putting on. But yeah, that's a tough one there. But getting that pH up will help a lot. But again, then you're back to how much lime are you putting on, and how much are you actually wasting for, it's just going to be a, how do I want to say it, trial and error pretty much, just to see what you can do.
Oh yeah.
Have you guys noticed putting that lime on it when you put the recommended lime on that is calling for? Have you seen it where it's building it like it should, or is it still always pretty low?
Well, two things. One, last time we applied lime, we had some miscommunications. We
Mm-hmm.
thought we were putting the appropriate amount, but according to our math, we actually were probably less than half than what we should have. And
Yep.
we did see. The numbers I pulled up first were our numbers from 2020, but um, we saw some jumps, but obviously we're not where we need to be.
Right.
But I mean,
Right.
there's some of our plots we'd have to put 5 or 6 tons to the acre probably to get it where
Right.
it needs to be.
Exactly. Get costly pretty quick too.
Well, it
Wow.
wouldn't cost near as much as fertilizer.
No, that's God's truth right there. It is. It's horrible. I just did some pricing on it today, and it's nitrogen right now is 3 times higher than it was this time last year where I'm at.
Huh. Yeah, that plot in 2020 was a 5.0.
5.0. Okay.
But somebody said I should put a life-size cardboard cutout of you in that food plot, but they apparently wasn't listening. I said we don't want to deter the deer from being in that area.
That'd scare them deer to death right there. You wouldn't have to worry about shooting them. You just have to go out and pick them up. So.
They'd just go ahead and surrender.
Yep, they would. Yep. Heck yes, they would. So.
I know I've got that other soil sample saved right here, but I hadn't found it yet. But I was curious what you said there about how much we increased.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know we did see some increases, but I don't remember exact numbers.
Okay.
But
so, what do you think last year? What worked the best for you in your other plots? So, was that the radishes that you guys were planting, or what worked the best?
well, we always like the fall, winter, spring because, like you said, those cereal rye, even when all else fails, that cereal rye is going to be there.
Yep.
Except for in the the one that gets bombed, but
right.
And then the new Southern blend did good for us as far as coming up, but those deer wiped out those collards too as fast as they would come up.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Those the blends, with the radishes and the like that grade 8, radishes and the turnips, they really seem to like those radishes and turnips, but they're busy. Even last year, for early season, we mixed some red zone in there.
Yep.
So when we first got good germination, we had that red zone there for them to hammer, and that kind of let the the turnips and the radishes, which they weren't sweet yet anyway, plus all the cereal rye, they filled in everything else, and then
right.
By the time it gets cold, last couple of years seems like it's been into November, into December before we had too much of a cold spell. and then the radishes and turnips look great.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
But I will say, after we got past deer season this year, at the end of January and into February, we had a bunch of those white balls out there with the radishes and the turnips, and you'd see, they were just starting to bite a little piece out of the top of them.
Piece on
And
top.
one time
Good.
we said, shoot, how long is this stuff going to last that's out here now? And we kind of predicted, another couple months maybe. And shoot, 3 weeks later, it was wiped out. Nothing
Right.
left but the cereal rye. So.
Yep. Yep. We got a question up here, actually. And I apologize, for some reason it's saying Facebook user. It's not saying the person's name, but do you use any AK liquid products such as our Jolt, Plot Max, or Clover Fuel?
Yeah, we definitely do. Whenever we're prepping plots, we use a lot of the Plot Max. And we'll actually, if you're going to burn a plot down with some Roundup, that's something we'll go ahead and mix in and get in the soil to help condition that while we're also killing weeds. But like that Jolt, this year with fertilizer prices like they are, I expect we're going to be using a lot more of that than what we have been.
Yeah, yeah. It's and I think a lot of people are seeing that because our Jolt sales have went through the roof this year, and our Clover Fuel too. I'm the guy that I'm a diehard clover nut, so I'm using a lot of potash on my clover, and I buy it by the ton. And this year, again, it's tripled in price. So, I'm doing some testing this year on cutting back on my granular and going real hot on my liquids, just because the liquids are cheaper and they cover more. So I'm just going to do a trial and error to compare the last few years compared to what I can do this year on these clover plots and see what it does.
Well, that's, we've kind of in the past used it as like the name says there, Jolt. Mm-hmm. We've used it to kind of give it a little kickstart there in the kind of early stages, but we haven't continued applications throughout the growing period. We've kind of relied on the fertilizer that we spread whenever we were planting, but we may spread a whole lot less fertilizer this year and do some testing to see if we can just do maybe 3 applications of Jolt and see where we're at.
Exactly right. Exactly. Now, well, I guess one question I got for you, and Timmy Lambert's on there. Nice to see you, Timmy. What do you guys do? Do you pretty much drill everything? Do you guys do any hand broadcasting? What are you guys doing on that sandy soil?
Well, last year we did 2 things. One, we've got a buddy named Mike that has a business, South Georgia Wildlife Solutions, I think is the name of it. I need to go back and look. That doesn't sound right. But anyway, Michael Daly, and he does a lot of farm management, food plot stuff in our area, and he has top of the line seed drills, and he brings his drill and helps us plant most of especially our biggest plots. He has every year he upgrades and gets something a little better and a little better, and as his drills get bigger, it's starting to kind of limit some of the plots he can get into. We've got a couple little 1/4 acre, 1/2 acre plots that are back in the woods, and I'm afraid we'd tear that drill up if we tried to get in there to some of that. But last year, some other buddies of ours had a plot master, and we borrowed that plot master and planted some of our smaller stuff, and it did pretty good too. One thing you and I have talked about a lot of times is the small seeds versus the big seeds. Those fancy drills, you can put all the smaller seeds in the compartment in the back to kind of drop those seeds closer to the top, whereas your bigger seeds are getting drilled in a little deeper. And that's we try to, the stuff that doesn't, like obviously your red zone stuff like that we've planted, it's got to go in the big hopper. But some of and that's even why sometimes we'll get from you just radishes or just turnips in the smaller bags to mix in there, and we're just dropping that in the small hopper so that it's not getting buried too deep. Because all you're doing, if you put that seed too deep, you're just wasting seed, and that doesn't do us or Antler King or anybody else any good.
You're exactly right. And for the people that don't understand what we're talking about, let's just take our slam dunk, for instance, our radish blend. It's got three different sizes of seeds in it. So you can't take that and run it through a drill like what you're talking about, because the seeds are all different sizes and you'll start having issues, lose germination. So that's why you're using the, like our 1 pound packs where you buy 40, 50 pound bags of it. So the straight radish, turnip, stuff like that. And it works out better for you. So yeah, I get a lot of questions on the different seed sizes in our blends and wanting to know, if we can, like, let's just say do 2 bags in one. Take the small seeds and put in the bag, and then take the bigger seeds and put inside that bag, so you can do them. But the issue you have there, just for the people that wonder, is, and we just talked about this at our last quarterly meeting, when you got a 1/4 acre seed blend, if it's got peas in it, it's got radishes in it, and it's got, let's say, buckwheat in it, there's not a 1/4 acre of each of them in that bag. There's enough of all three of them to make a 1/4 acre. So if we try taking the peas and splitting them separate, there's not enough peas there to cover a whole 1/4 acre plot. So it's going to throw people off when they go to try to seed them. But yeah, it's something like you guys are doing, the guys that are running drills and stuff like that. It's better to get a hold of us or get a hold of me and get you them straight varieties. And then you can mix them in your boxes the way you need them to be.
And to go back a little bit, our buddy Michael Daly, his business is called Middle Georgia Wildlife Solutions. I wanted to
I heard you say that. That's it. Yep.
He does a lot to help us out, and my 42-year-old brain, and apparently my hard drive's full because it ain't sometimes it kicks things out that it don't remember right.
Oh, I know how that works. I know that for a fact. Now, one thing I've noticed, up in Wisconsin, here in river bottom ground with sandy soil, is it's different for me with black soil, and then me getting down into a river bottom with sandy soil, especially the compaction of soil, trying to broadcast seed into sandier soil. I mean, you really need to compact that soil down good, but sand doesn't like to compact very well. You can compact it, but it loosens up a lot quicker. You guys see a lot of issues with that there? Do you guys use a cultipacker or anything like that?
We have some in the past, but I can't say we've seen a huge difference with it. Like that Plot Master, whenever we utilize that, it has a cultipator built into the back of it.
Exactly.
And it did make it real nice and really pretty. And in the years that we have used a cultipacker, I will say it makes the dirt look, beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
in my opinion, with all that sand, you get a couple hard rains, it's packed down pretty good.
Right.
It's just the cultipacker to me speeds that process up.
Right. Exactly. Well, yeah. Here with me with my soil, I run a Packer Max is the one I run, and literally, if you ran the Packer Max on a plot, and then right next to it you don't run it, you'll see a big difference of the soil we have here. Packing that soil prior to planting and then packing it one more time after, it makes the biggest difference in the world. And I was just kind of wondering with that sandy soil how that was, because I didn't know how well it would pack. That's why I was asking.
Well, it does pack very well in my opinion, and that's one, like say if we went out there this month and spread a bunch of lime and worked all that lime in,
Mm-hmm.
ideally we would wait maybe even as much as a month before we went back and planted, so a couple good hard rains to pack everything down. But
right,
cultipacker obviously fast forwards that process where you don't have to wait. You don't have to give the elements time to, mash it all back down flat. Keep on working, get the seed in.
Keep on working.
And we looked at that same cultipacker you're talking about in Iowa, and
that's right.
Looks like good stuff.
That is, I just got the brackets here right now. I just got them in with FedEx today. They turned mine into an 8-footer now, so I can run it narrow, or I can add another one. I can do 8-foot in my bigger plots. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how the 8-footer works on that. And I think it'd be something that you guys could probably utilize pretty well if it ever got down to it. It's so easy to transport and move around and load up, and that's why I like them so well. So
That's going to be real cute if you pull that 8-footer behind your bicycle out there mashing them food plots down.
Hey, I'll tell you what, I've done stupider things in my life. So I have to hire
our buddy Trey that's on the show with us, a bunch of hunting with us, and is on our team, said he broadcasted some of the barricade just
Yep.
without drilling his in, and just broadcast it and drug it in, and he had fantastic results in
That's awesome.
sandier soils with that, just broadcasting and dragging.
I'll tell you what, I was wondering now, have you guys, I can't remember, did you play around with a little bit of barricade yet or not?
Just a few places.
A few places.
We had a couple little places that we planted it, and a lot of, by the time we decided we wanted to plant it somewhere, we'd done waited too late.
Too late. Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad that he tried that down there, because I was wondering how well it would do in your area. And for me, I prefer to broadcast mine. I mean, a lot of guys want to drill it in and stuff. I prefer to broadcast it, and I've had great luck with it. So, yep.
Well, and that's I think that would have done really well in that plot master too.
It'd do very well. Yes, it would.
Does it all?
Yes, it'd do very well in that plot master. Them are a heck of a machine right there. Them are a good machine.
And I know 2 weeks ago we were trying to do this live, and all the technical difficulties, we couldn't get on here and talk about everything. But that week we were going to talk about barricade, and
yep,
you kind of touched on some of that stuff that week. But Todd came down and looked at our lease and our property and saw what we were planting, and we were talking about barricade when he was down here. And one thing I had always pictured barricade just as a screen, as a way of getting to your deer stand without being seen, or keeping people from looking at your property from the road. I hadn't considered it as a way to actually funnel deer, because until we talked about it, I didn't know that it was so hardy and tough that deer wouldn't walk through it. That you plant it thick enough, they're going to go around it. They can't go through it.
That they will go around it like crazy. There's actually a gentleman on here, Timmy Lambert, on here. He's a good friend of mine right outside town, and we incorporated a lot of barricade on his property this year, and actually funneling them deer to his blind to get within 40 yards of his blind. And this year, he's been doing some thinking about doing to actually what he caught them doing was literally they would come around the barricade and they'd walk the river edge around. Now he's going to take that barricade straight to the river, so they can't go across there. So stuff like that, then making them funnels. For a $20 bill for a bag that will do an 8-foot wide strip, a quarter mile long, you can make a lot of funnels pretty cheap. It works very well.
Even on a big plot, for years I've seen guys like say in some thick CRP or something, and make finger food plots out away from the stand, so that the deer would come towards the stand to then check the rest of the field. You could build some of that really easily with some of that barricade.
Very, very easily. Yeah, very well could. Hey, we do got one question on here. A guy's asking, and again, guys, if you want to put your name on here, add your name to these, because a lot of you are is just coming across Facebook user. But he's asking, do you have food plots and kill plots? Are you guys pretty much hunting all your food plots, or kill plots, or you got some extra food plots you don't touch?
Well, I'm gonna say this kind of two ways. Every food plot we plant is with the purpose of hunting over it. Mm-hmm. However, we have a lot of food plots and only a few people hunting our property. Yeah. So especially, if you shoot your deer kind of early in the season, or, you get one particular spot you like to hunt more than others, we've got several plots that nobody even hunted last year. So pressure is not an issue on our food.
That's good. That's good. That's why them deer eat them to the ground. They don't have nobody out there chasing them off.
Well, I would put that picture of you out there to run them off, but whole reason we plant all this stuff is for the deer to eat, so I don't want to deter them from doing that.
I know for a fact there's a couple pictures out there of me that would actually do it, but I ain't sharing them, so we're not going to do that.
I'll send some of them. We'll put them on your birthday cake this year.
No, there you go. There you go. That
Um,
Jeff
Trey,
Johnson's on, Jeff Johnson's on here asking or telling us that he mowed holes in his barricade in front of his tree stand. Worked great last year. So yeah, that works out really well. Yeah.
and Trey actually just texted me and said that he and Michael are going to turn one of Trey's fields into a temporary forest this year with the use of barricade
Barricade,
uh,
good deal.
to create a just a real thick kind of bedding area there.
Way to do it. It will. I do that on one of my properties, and I kind of touched on it. I can't remember if it was last week or week before, whenever it was. But the key thing on doing that is giving the deer a entrance and an exit, and man, they will literally get in and out through that stuff and bed in it. I mean, they feel really safe and secure in it. It works out really, really well. Yep. So they have a good time doing that. See if we got any other questions on here. Or they're just rolling through here pretty quick.
That was Jeff Johnson that said he mowed the holes in his barricade.
Yep.
That well, shooting like Trey's talking about, even if you planted a whole plot in that to give it time to grow, and then went back in and mowed and planted some strips in it.
Yeah.
Deer season. Shoot, that could be money right there.
Real well. Yes, it'd do very well. Yeah, that barricade, it really changed the way that I hunt certain areas, especially for me, when I call a bigger open field on my property, it's only a 12-acre field, but I mean, you can funnel them, you can block the traffic from them because that's actually on the west side of this field is a wide open blacktop road. And everybody a half hour before dark wants to stop and watch the deer and blow them off the field. So, I mean, it works excellent for that. And then getting to in front of the stand like you talked about, and then making the funnels. I mean, it's a very, very easy thing to do. And another thing too is getting right back to the organic matter, especially for the sandy soil. A lot of people will burn them off, but like in your guys' case, when that stuff is dead and gone the next spring, the next year, the best thing to do with that in that sandy soil is either till it under or disc it under and let it put that organic matter back into that soil. It really help obtain the moisture and stuff a lot better for a year or two anyway, until it really breaks down.
And you might already be aware of this, Robbie, but Trey also just texted me and said he's even gotten some pictures of deer eating the seed heads off of that barricade this winter too.
Yeah, they will. Them deer love that sorghum, them seed heads, especially when it dries up and you'll see that head turn down and drop. They will tear them up, and also the turkeys when they start dropping on the ground, the birds love them. So it's actually a benefit to a lot of different wildlife and helping us out at the same time.
Mark C asked, "What was our biggest plot, and what are we planting in it?" Our biggest plot is probably just a shade over 4 acres. And we've got another one that's probably 3 acres that's not too far from it. But most everything we have, we'll mix fall, winter, spring, and grade 8. And then we'll go in with like some trophy clover and just kind of scatter in between to give a little extra clover in there. I've been trying to get some clover carpeted in there, but our pH hadn't been good enough to get what I was trying to achieve. But that just that game changer clover and trophy clover, depending on how much shade it's getting and exactly how bad the pH is, just one of them two we're mixing in there too.
Yep, that's a good combination right there. Them are two of my favorite blends. There, the fall, winter, spring, and the slam dunk. I don't think I could have a property without them. They're my favorites, and the deer just devour them. So, and maybe in your case, maybe too much.
Well, like I say, that grade 8 is probably my favorite.
For an all around food source, energy, protein, all that, you won't find nothing better in grade 8 for an all around everything.
Well, I mean, there's a reason that those 8 seeds were the most popular that y'all deal with.
Exactly.
To make it the grade 8.
Yeah, all of us guys for years on the pro staff and everything, we've mixed all 4. And for a lot of you that don't know the grade 8 is actually a variety of we've taken our lights out, our slam dunk, our honey hole, in our fall, winter, spring, and we put them all together, got the percentages just right with each one of them so they wouldn't compete with each other, and put it in one bag called Grade 8. And very good in energy, very good in protein, fiber. And then with the added cereal rye that's to it, it acts like a perennial for the first year. It will go dormant with the frost and then come back the spring of the year for 4 or 5 months and then die off. So very, very good mix. And it's going over really well last couple of years that we've had it out.
I'm trying to remember what all was in that Southern Greens blend. I always talk about the collards, but.
Yep. You got the collard greens, you got radish, and winter wheat. And buckwheat.
So there's some oats in there too.
Man, that's the new mix. I'm trying to remember here.
The website there is, but everybody down in the South,
it does. It
does
have
with some oats.
Yep, it does have.
Seems like everybody wants to talk about oats.
Yep.
So Southern that Southern blend's got the oats in it to make all those people happy.
It does.
The collards, we planted that in a lot of plots. We had a couple of them get flooded, so we didn't get a very true test on some of those, but
yep,
that blend did pretty well down here too.
Man, you had some flooded stuff last year. I know that.
We had some stuff you'd have needed a snorkel if you were going to hunt it last year.
I couldn't believe how some of that stuff greened up afterwards. I thought it was long gone.
The Antler King website talks about when after the frost occurs, those brassicas turn into a sweet, high energy food source. Our deer said them Southern greens were sweet as soon as they came out of the dirt because they didn't.
Oh yes, yeah, and that that's the thing about them collard greens. Oh my, they will devour them right off the bat.
Yeah, they didn't let them. Like some of the stuff like the radishes and turnips in that Grade 8, they'll let them grow a little bit and they get enough of a head start that they'll make it through the winter or till the end of winter.
Right.
But those collards in that Southern blend didn't survive it that long.
No. That's one reason we put the radish in with that blend is just because we needed something because we knew they were going to hammer them collards pretty hard, and they do. I tested it last year here to see what it would do here, and they devoured them collard greens. We got a guy asking, does barricade like wetter type of soil? It really depends on the wetness. I mean, it loves moisture, but any kind of standing water, anything like that, you're going to have some issues with. But it does love moisture if it's a moist area.
So it likes to be damp. It don't like to be swimming.
Yeah, it don't like to be swimming. No, it don't want to be floating. No.
Jeff Johnson said his favorite way to plant clover used to be planted in the late summer along with fall, winter, spring as a cover crop.
Yep.
And then mow fall, winter, spring in the spring.
Yep.
And that's a lot of guys do that, and I just like scattering it because we used to always put it in the drill, and it would come up good. But I'm trying to make a little bit of a carpet in between all the drill lines, and
exactly right.
Before we hadn't accomplished that.
Yep, I totally agree. Let's see what we got here.
That the cereal rise in fall, winter, spring. Whenever they come up in the spring, like now, after they've been kind of dormant through the winter, and now they're greening up. How big? At what stage do the deer stop eating that, Robbie?
You'll start noticing it getting real stemmy. You're going to get into that when they get much over a couple foot. You'll start seeing them getting real stemmy, and they're not as palatable for them to eat. They're still good in protein, but they're not that palatable. So if they can keep them down to that 2 foot or less and keep eating on them, they're good. But they will raise up there 4, almost 5 foot tall. They will just stem out and then finally just die off.
They might make it to 5 foot tall in your black dirt.
Yeah.
I think they're making it to 5 foot down here.
Yeah.
But they do grow well, but 5 foot is a stretch.
Well, they're in your area, with all your pressure too. The more they eat them, the more they're going to grow. So that's the good thing. You get around here and the deer start going elsewhere looking for food and they eat some of the cereal rye and they're just not hammering it like they probably are in your area. You'll see the big patchy areas where they eat certain areas around the timber edge or something out in the middle. It's getting real tall. And it's about like oats. Oats, when they get they get real stemmy, they're not that palatable. So the deer will leave them alone too. So
If you tried to mow that though, you'd kill those plants, wouldn't you?
you you will kill the plants that you run over. If you get them in the younger stage before they mature out, now you can cut them and they'll keep growing. But when they start getting that 3 and 4 foot tall stuff, they're gonna be done. Yep. Mark Coleman's asking, how long have you been doing food plots? You seem to have it all figured out. There you go.
If he's talking to me, the reason I have it all figured out is because, like I said, I have Robbie's cell phone number. So whenever we get ready to do something, I can call Robbie and say, hey, this is what we're thinking about doing. Is that a good idea or a bad idea? And the only time that we had to really educate Robbie on anything, it was how many seeds to put in the dirt in the South.
Yeah, exactly.
About,
You
about
definitely
twice
did
as
that.
much as you have to do at his house.
Yep, you definitely educated me on that because that's something that, man, that's one of my pet peeves. I cannot stand overseeding, but man, after seeing what you guys are going through, I can totally understand it down there. I mean, I really can.
We have some places that we have done more than double the recommendations, and I haven't seen a spot that we put too much seed in the dirt yet.
Right. Yep. Yeah, that's crazy.
Which is good for seeds. The person selling the seed, I would say.
It is. And hey, back to our barricade. Timmy Lambert's on here saying, barricade loves nitrogen. He's 100% right. I mean, a lot of you guys probably seen my pictures on social media here of my barricade and stuff like that. It'll get 12, 14 foot high. And that's because I'm pouring the nitrogen to it. Now, a normal planting, normal fertilizer, you're getting a good 8 foot out of it. But you pour the nitrogen to it, don't burn the plant. Make sure you're getting plenty of moisture. But another thing, our jolt, I probably go through on my barricade. I can't tell you how many gallons of jolt I go through a year because I can literally turn my sprayer sideways to blow a sideways pass and just drive up and down beside my barricade, and it will just coat that barricade, and it loves that nitrogen and that jolt. It really gives it a good kickstart and gets going good. So.
Well, but talking about that barricade, the thing is, it doesn't have to be 12 foot tall to be effective either.
It doesn't. No. That the good thing about it is actually, and that's actually, I'm glad you brought that up because I should rephrase that when I do it. It does get 12 to 14 foot tall, but the more nutrients you give to it, the stalks are a lot more stronger. They're stouter. They're bigger. It's going to withstand a lot more abuse, especially here where I'm at. Some of my barricade runs east and west with a north wind hitting it, and all these bad winds we get here. You can really damage the front rows of it, and especially before they get completely grown up. And so, yeah, getting that stalk as healthy as it is, and we are actually working on another variety of barricade right now that already is a stiffer and lot stouter stalk plant. So we're working on it, doing some testing and seeing what we can do with it.
Well, the good thing is down here where we're at, we don't have to worry about supporting much snow.
Yeah, that's true. That is.
The plant, other than getting maybe a hurricane putting a little pressure on it sometimes, it ain't gonna face much from elements beating it down like you guys have with the snowstorm.
No, man, we have snowstorms. This year we've had so many ice storms and straight line winds, 40, 50 mile. We've had 40-mile-an-hour winds all day today. It's been crazy out there today. You can't even hardly stand up outside, and it just seems like every year we just get more and more of it. And so I don't know.
We call that a tropical storm down here.
Yeah. Mark Coleman's asking, what kind of ag do you have around you down there? We have corn and soybeans up here. What do you have down there?
Well, in the region, I would say there are some soybeans, a lot of cotton, some corn, and there's a decent amount of peanuts down here.
Mm-hmm.
But the peanuts, down here in Florida where I live, the peanuts are usually picked by deer season, and up in South Georgia where our lease and a lot of that stuff is, they're picking it right around the beginning of bow season. The peanuts are, in my opinion, one of the biggest deer attractors around, but they don't last into deer season very much.
Right.
But actually, right close to our main lease that we do a lot of our videoing on and stuff with, especially with food plot material, we don't have much agriculture very close to that at all. I'd say a few cotton fields that every once in a while they'll plant in corn a few miles down the road, but it's a pretty good poke to get to much ag around our main lease.
Yeah. And now, where you're at, are you mostly pines on your leases, or do you have any hardwoods there, Kevin? Or
The lease that we're on is mostly pines. There are some hardwoods, but hardwoods that I'm gonna say several years ago were clear cut, so they're relatively small
yeah,
oaks. They produce acorns, but they're they're not big granddaddy oaks. They're oak trees that most of them are
oh yeah,
6-8
yep,
inches thick at the trunk. So,
hmm.
but it's a lot of thick bedding area. That's we were
Oh
talking
yeah,
about shed hunting a few weeks back. We actually in some of our Antler King plots found several sheds, which for us finding a lot of sheds was finding 5 or 6. And everybody always talks about how they shed hunt, especially up by where you're at, Robbie. But everybody
hmm,
talks about finding sheds and shed hunting.
yeah,
Problem is where we're at down here, these woods are thick.
oh
You
yeah,
can't just walk through the woods looking for a shed because you can only see a few feet this way and a few feet that way, and if you don't step on it, you ain't gonna find it. But
hmm.
some
I
of
never
your
thought about
woods, you can walk through there and you might see 20 yards this way and 20 yards that way, or even more in the wintertime when there's no leaves.
that.
And it
Right.
just ain't like that down here. We don't have that kind of visibility in our woods.
I never thought about that, but that I can see where you're coming from there. Yeah, I never even realized that it was that thick. Yeah,
So, most of the time we find them, it's either by a feeding station or in the middle of a food plot. Because one, that's where the deer are concentrated, obviously, but two, that's the only place we have much visibility to
right.
actually see them.
Yeah. Well, Jeff Johnson's on here, and he's making a very good point. With no ag food sources to take the pressure off your plots, you're lucky to see a plant. That's exactly right. I mean, them deer don't have much around there, and you start planting that lush green. That's why they're destroying it.
Oh yeah, and that's exactly why, like we talked about, we plant so much heavier on seed rates because most of them plant it to the end of the month, much less through deer
Right.
season.
Exactly right. Mark's asking,
Uh,
is it legal to put minerals out in your state? Mark's asking.
yeah, it's legal, and we actually down here, Mark, in Georgia and Florida, we can feed corn, especially during deer season, um, and even hunt around our feeding stands if we want to. Um, we like to hunt on the food plots just because it's a lot bigger, more open area. But if we want to, we could go sit on a feed trough filled with some deer and elk pellets if that was the choice we made. But it's legal to put mineral feed, uh, whatever we prefer for deer down here.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember back the ATA show, you showed me that picture of the smorgasbord you had in that feeder.
A little bean cuisine, a little this, a little of that. I mean, they're gonna eat it all. It's just a matter of
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's
making it.
pretty good there.
Well, we want our deer to be smiling when they come up there. They got a little
You got that
backwoods
right.
buffet in there.
They had to be smiling there. Man, that was a lot of food.
Some of
Heck
them
yeah.
trail camera pictures, when the deer walks up there, all you can see is their teeth because they're grinning from ear to
Heck
ear.
yes.
Trey was still texting me about that barricade. He said the ones he planted on his place, he did fertilize it with a lot of nitrogen, and even down here got at least 8 foot
That's
growth
awesome.
out of it. So,
No,
and
I
like I
like
said,
it.
even if it was 6 foot growth, it still is going to be effective, for
Exactly.
shielding and for funneling.
Oh yeah, 5 foot, 6 foot, anything right there you can get by with. I mean, but yeah, that's awesome to know it grew like that down there and what soil conditions you guys have. Yeah, I like that. Pull up here. Yeah, Timmy Lambert's on here saying last year was his first year with Barricade. The things you can do with Barricade is endless. It's a great product. It worked out very well for him this year. Him and his boy both shot two very nice deer this year off of it, or off their
Well, like I
plots.
said, like I said, that until we had really sat down with Todd and talked about some of that product, I was not even considering half of what it can do.
Right. Yeah, and I can see where you guys could benefit from that a lot down there with them bigger areas, bigger open plots, getting with your blinds, blocking them in, getting in and out of them. I can see how it would work out very well, and the funneling part. So,
Talking about Jeff Johnson talking about the ag food sources and
mm-hmm.
um, the deer loved coming to the plots. The thing down here is we plant a lot of food plots, and some of our neighbors do too, but some others don't. Um, but you get into deer season, and as soon as deer season kicks off, because it is legal to feed down here, everybody and their brother starts feeding.
Right.
So while we may have had deer at feeders and uh, some of our summer plots and things throughout the hot months,
Mm-hmm.
come September, where there's a pile of corn on every 5 acres somebody has to hunt, things
Right.
shift up a lot.
Yep.
But
Oh, yeah.
because of planting the food plots and keeping those green options out there, come later in the season, whenever after the acorns are gone and things start to change, and I'm sure some people are tagged out and not feeding like they were there for a couple months, and they start hitting them plots again.
Right. Right. Sitting here thinking about it, and I think you already have, but have you guys ever tried planting any chicory to straight chicory?
We did a couple of plots this year of chicory and clover mixed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we haven't done any just straight chicory.
The reason I was asking, and I get asked this a lot, but for me, being the diehard clover guy, the trophy clover with the chicory mixed in with it, uh, years ago I started planting straight chicory, and the reason is, and I don't know how it would be down there, and that's why I'm asking, is here where I'm at in Illinois, chicory is one of the only plants that has minerals inside of it. So the deer kind of use that similar to a mineral lick. They only hit it certain times of the year when they're really craving it. But when they do, they devour it. So here in Illinois, you're looking about 1st of September to mid-October. You can't plant enough of it, then they lay off of it, and then they will hit it again colder in the season. So I don't know if something like that might be good to incorporate a little bit more into too, because maybe they'll lay off of it some until they definitely want it. But they could just eat it right up too. You just never know where you're at.
We have one
So
spot that's probably a quarter acre might be generous. It ain't a real big spot, but it's a spot that typically holds good moisture, and it's a little bit shaded so that it's not getting hammered by the sun. And that
yep,
was the spot we put in last fall of chicory and clover blend,
yep,
and both of them came up exceptionally well. But I couldn't go take a push mower out there right now and mow it any shorter than what it is. It's
yep,
right
yep,
now it is golf course short.
yep. Well, that makes sense by what you're saying there. Yeah, it might just be a curse having
It's
that many
pretty and
deer.
green. It's,
Pretty
it's
green.
pretty and green, but it ain't very tall because they're mowing it off like a lawnmower.
Now the good thing about it is they're doing what they're supposed to do, but they can at least leave you a little bit.
That's what we planted it for.
Yep.
I wish we could go out there and give them a little seminar that if they'd give it a little bit of a head start, it'd give them a lot more. But
A lot more
they don't
forage. They
listen
wouldn't have.
very well.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, Mark Coleman's asking if you had one request of Antler King food plot or Pacific food plot mix, what would it be? Something that you don't currently offer now. We don't currently offer now.
Uh, we have discussed with Robbie a few times some recommendations on uh, some stuff for maybe a summer plot. Um, Red zone is good, and we actually going to play with trying to do some soybean test stuff here this year. The biggest problem we have is it's hard for some of those plants to take the heat.
That's very hard.
But we've talked about some maybe there's some possibility of some sun hemp or something like that, something that's popular down here, or some that with some vine and soybeans.
Right.
I keep wanting to do a test plot down here of some peanuts, maybe some vine and peanuts, but
I was actually just
then
thinking that before you said it. Yep.
you if they eat it, great, but if they don't stay on top of it, then you got a lot of some of those peanut vines are pretty tough to try to work back into the soil.
Yep.
And sometimes some of those peanuts are, I know, growing up around peanut farm and stuff down here, you get dealing with some nematodes and stuff like that sometimes that can cause a lot of soil issues.
Oh,
when
yeah.
you're trying to, but maybe, like a perennial peanut, something like that would be something I would look at and think about that's not a current plot mix.
Yep. Yeah, that's definitely not a current one for sure. That's something to really think about, because I was actually thinking the same thing before you said it. Wonder how that would work.
And Trey actually texted me and said, y'all should consider incorporating peanut seed into a southern blend. So he's right there on the same page with what we were talking about.
There you
How
go.
in the world did y'all make a southern blend with some oats and some collard greens and put any boiled peanuts?
Well, I'm going to blame that all on corporate. So I'm taking it off of me. So, oh man.
But get you a couple 100 pounds of perennial peanuts the next time they start to make a blend, and it'll
There you
surprise
go.
people.
Well, they're always asking me. They might look at me stupid when I tell them what we were thinking about, but I'm telling you what, I'm kind of leaning forward. I'm leaning for
it. Again, the only issue you're going to have is that peanut seed is a whole lot different size than that radish and that turnip.
Yeah, exactly right. Yes, exactly. We got a Facebook user asking, do you grow any sunflowers down there?
Over at the Lee Farm, Big Mike Lee has grown quite a flowers. We haven't successfully, which we've had some obviously in red zone stuff at our place, but we haven't planted any specific sunflower plots. And what sunflowers we have had in the red zone have they let it get big enough to grow flowers.
Right.
And even, Mike Lee over at his farm outside of Cordele, a few years back, I stopped in there and he had such a beautiful field of sunflowers. We had to go ride around and he had to introduce me to some of them beautiful flowers because they were impressive, to say the least.
Oh, I bet so. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. See what I'm missing anybody here or not.
Mark talking about, I ain't trying to put Robbie on the spot here, but you're talking about if we had a request, we talked about that we wished was possible, but into different regulations and stuff where it's not. But we wish we could do some type of a Roundup Ready blend. That would be really cool, but you run into regular on, you got to do report of where those seeds go and things like that. And when you start trying to blend them, and it just runs to a whole bunch of issues that people don't think about from the corporate side.
Right. Yeah. The paper trail, we actually, in our last quarterly meeting, we discussed it even more on a few different things. and the paper trail it's almost as worse as, we've been looking into some herbicides and stuff like that between Roundup Ready stuff and herbicides to spray like clover, stuff like that with. It's like pulling teeth. It's pretty rough. I mean, there's a lot of paper trails to it. A lot. I mean, it's something that on a Roundup Ready on our end, there's a select few people that would buy them, but the price you'd have to ask for them, it's ridiculous. I mean, I don't know how they do it. And now I'd hate to see what it is now with all these prices going up. I know just seeing what our seeds are doing and our coating like we put on the honey hole and the trophy clover, how it's going up. I can only imagine what these Roundup Ready varieties are going. I mean, it'd be crazy.
Well, and Clayton and I talked about it too. Just those, the Roundup Ready stuff and the chemical side of agriculture. Really, it's a lot like kind of the pharmaceutical world.
Yeah.
There's a lot of big money
exactly
involved,
right.
and there's a lot of companies going to fight you on trying to keep you from making some of their money.
You're exactly right. That's a good way to say it right there. That is, they're two peas in a pod right there. Yep. But well, man, we reached our hour. I'd say I think we've talked about everything we could talk about. I think
That didn't even
it's hard
seem
telling.
painful.
It didn't. I keep telling everybody I'm more than a pretty face. I'll make it as painful as I could for everybody. I'll help
We
them
just
out.
went a whole hour and ain't lied to nobody, and then all of a sudden you got to start throwing it in here at the end.
Hey, I gotta give them a laugh before they get off here, before they go to bed. So
y'all need to offer that cardboard cutout of Robbie on that way everybody can go in there and buy that.
I guarantee you there's probably some guys on there right now. I get on Facebook and we get off here, they probably got pictures on there probably already. I wouldn't doubt it.
I'll have to check that out. But
yeah,
I mean, there'd be all over the country wanting one of those just to put in the house.
I'd have to put a new door on. I'd have put an extra lock on my door, just keep them from beating the door down. I'm telling you. So, Kevin, man, it's been a great night, man. I appreciate you jumping on here. I know you had a busy day and daughter's ball game and stuff, but I appreciate it very much. So,
no problem. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, we'll get you back on here again, and till then, we'll just get off of here. And you have a good night, and everybody out there have a happy Easter, and we'll see you next Thursday.
Take it easy.
All right, take care, bud.